Hello, my friends. Today we begin with the fact that after speaking with Putin, Trump published the results. Just completed my 2-hour call with President Vladimir Putin of Russia. I believe it went very well. Russia and Ukraine will immediately start negotiations toward a ceasefire and, more importantly, an end to the war. The conditions for that will be negotiated between the two parties, as it can only be because they know details of a negotiation that nobody else would be aware of. The tone and spirit of the conversation were excellent. If it wasn't, I would say so now rather than later. Russia wants to do large scale trade with the United States when this catastrophic bloodbath is over, and I agree. There is a tremendous opportunity for Russia to create massive amounts of jobs and wealth. Its potential is unlimited. Likewise, Ukraine can be a great beneficiary on trade in the process of rebuilding its country. Negotiations between Russia and Ukraine will begin immediately. I have so informed President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine, Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, President Emmanuel Macron of France, Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni of Italy, Chancellor Friedrich Merz of Germany, and President Alexander Stubb of Finland during a call with me immediately after the call with President Putin. The Vatican, as represented by the Pope, has stated that it would be very interested in hosting the negotiations. Let the process begin. Trump also commented on his call with Putin and the European leaders, and that Putin told him he has great respect for his wife. Well, thank you, everyone. We just had a 2.5 hour conversation with Vladimir Putin, and I believe there is some progress. It's a terrible situation over there. 5,000 young people are dying every week, so I hope we achieved something. We also spoke with the leaders of most European countries and are trying to sort all this out. It's a shame that this even started in the first place, but I want to thank Melania for her leadership on this important issue. It's an extremely important matter. America is lucky to have such a devoted and compassionate First Lady. I'll tell you, she's incredibly dedicated. In fact, Putin just said that your wife is highly respected. I asked, what about me? No, they prefer Melania. That wasn't great. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I'm okay with that. It's all fine. So, friends, the beginning of truly serious negotiations has been laid. It seems Putin has really understood that devastating sanctions are coming, ones that will destroy Russia's economy, so Trump offered him a way out and the war and immediately start trading with the US and Europe. Most likely, all sanctions will be lifted in exchange for stopping the war, and Putin agreed. That's already evident in his statement. So, for now, we can say the situation is developing in a very positive direction. The main thing now is for Russia not to start dragging out the talks, but as Trump said, to immediately begin negotiation a ceasefire. Zelensky also commented on the negotiations with Trump.
Today I had two calls with President Trump in different formats. The first call, we talked about how important a ceasefire is for Ukraine. These are, essentially, non-negotiable issues, and we had been discussing them in Istanbul constantly before this. Secondly, the United States is ready to take more serious steps, sanctions-related steps. I strongly urged him to consider this and to implement them if Russia refuses to support the ceasefire and does not want to end this war. Third, I asked him not to make any decisions about Ukraine without us before his call with Putin. That is a matter of principle and extremely important to us. We agreed that there will be another call after his conversation with Putin. We just had a fairly long talk, I think over an hour. This second conversation was different in tone. From what I understand, President Trump believes that direct negotiations between Ukraine and Russia are the most important thing. That's his position, and he made it clear. We talked about it at length. In short, he believes that the Russian side will send signals regarding how they see a possible ceasefire and the next steps. They have their vision.
Basically, It's still Russia that will be dictating how things unfold. Zelensky also said that if the war ends, the pause will happen along the current front line.
No one will be withdrawing our troops from our own territories. That is my constitutional duty, and it is the duty of our military to defend the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine. Yes, some territories are currently temporarily occupied due to the aggression of such a large country, that's clear. But there will be no ultimatums, and no one will surrender their land, their territories, their people, or their homes. I don't know what principles are in the memorandum, but let's be honest. This is what I've been saying to world leaders. And I've repeated it many times to President Trump and his team. If Russia demands that we withdraw our troops from our own land, it means they do not want a ceasefire, and they do not want to end the war.
But most likely, Russia will not go for that, so the stop will happen along the current front line. They understand that. That's why there is still intense pressure all along the front, and they are trying to push forward through military means. But Ushakov stated that no specific timeline for ending the war was discussed. Russian President aide Yuri Ushakov said that during the conversation between Trump and Putin, no timelines for a potential ceasefire agreement between Russia and Ukraine were discussed. According to the aide to the Russian president, Trump allegedly views Russia as one of the United States' most important partners. The US president and Putin also discussed another prisoner swap between Russia and the US, 9 for 9 individuals. The timing and location of their meeting haven't yet been announced. Clearly, with this statement, he is hinting that Russia intends to drag out the negotiations to seize more territory. Meanwhile, it's confirmed that as a result of the first round of negotiations with the Russian delegation in Istanbul, a large scale prisoner exchange is being prepared 1,000 for 1,000.
Today, Defense Minister Umarov connected with the Russian side specifically, with the head of their Turkish delegation, Medinsky. Yes, they connected to discuss a 1,000 for 1,000 prisoner swap. They're working out the details. I believe all sides are interested. We certainly are. I believe that in the coming days or weeks, we will see results. They're already discussing the specifics and scheduling the exchange.
Now, let's move on to the situation on the front line, starting with Chasiv Yar. Activity is intensifying there because it's clear that Russian forces will try to capture both Chasiv Yar and Kostantinivka before any full ceasefire comes into effect. Today, attacks are ongoing in the area around Grigorivka. Russian troops are assaulting the central part of the city, Stupochki, and pushing toward Bila Hora. Clashes are also being reported near Kurdyumivka and Ozaryanivka. It's clear they are attempting to break through the entire front line here, but so far they've made no significant gains. Further south, in the Kostantinivka direction, the situation is more difficult. The Russians are assaulting Deliyivka, Sherbinivka, and Zorya. For now, there have been no new attacks on Yablonivka. In addition, Russian sources claim they are storming Romanivka near Zorya and have achieved some success there, though the Ukrainian side has yet to confirm this, so we'll wait and see. As of now, there have been no changes to the front line in this area over the past 24 hours. In the Pokrovsk direction, Russian forces continue pushing toward the villages of Koptiva and Shevchenko Pershe. They are also assaulting and shelling Popiv Yar, making the situation extremely difficult. Fighting continues for control over Malinivka, Myrolubivka, Lysivka, Dachinske, as well as offensive actions near Zvirove, Kotlane, Udachne, and assaults on Novosergiyevka. Artillery strikes are ongoing across the area, though the front line hasn't changed over the past 24 hours, according to Ukrainian defenders. The Russians have begun advancing north of Malinivka in the direction of Shevchenko-Persha, attempting to encircle the settlement from the south and southeast. Their goal appears to be to cut off Ukrainian positions near Koptiva. Meanwhile, the Russians are slowly moving toward Popov Yar and likely plan to advance further toward Poltavka. This situation is especially difficult along the Yablonivka-Alexandro-Kalinova line. The Russians are using large numbers of drones and artillery and have managed to gain a foothold on the western outskirts of Shevchenko-Persha. Russian troops are also pushing north of Alexandropol. It's crucial to hold Poltavka and Rusin Yar, as any breakthrough there could allow Russian forces to approach Kostiantynivka from the west and severe remaining supply routes. The road from Drushkivka to Kostiantynivka would fall under heavy fire control, and the city may not hold out for long if that happens. Urgent actions is needed. I am sick of writing about this, and no one is listening. In the Novopavlivka direction, Russian forces are advancing toward the village of Muravka and are also making progress near Kotlarivka. They are attacking Troitsk and Oleksiivka, and according to the General Staff of Ukraine, fighting is ongoing for the village of Bahatyr. Ukrainian forces haven't confirmed the loss of Bahatyr, although Russian war correspondents claim it has long been under Russian control and that their troops are already moving beyond it. So far, we are waiting official confirmation regarding the situation there. In the Velika Novosilka direction, Russian forces continue their attempts to advance toward the village of Shevchenko, the assaulting Vilnepole, and trying to break through toward Novopil. In addition, heavy shelling hasn't stopped, but despite these efforts, there have been no new gains. Ukrainian forces are successfully repelling all attacks. In the Zaporizhzhia direction, troubling news has emerged. The Russians have begun pushing toward the village of Lukyanivsk, leading to an expansion of the gray zone in the area. They also continue their attempts to break through near Novodanilivka and Arshala Novoandriivka. However, over the past 24 hours, the Russians haven't managed to gain a foothold, and the front line remains unchanged. Ukrainian FPV drones are operating at full capacity here, significantly hindering Russian movements. It's becoming clear that the Russians intend to advance toward Zaporizhzhia itself, but for now they appear to lack the strength to execute a large scale breakthrough. In the Kherson direction, Russian forces continue launching attacks on the islands and shelling the right bank of the Dnipro River. However, it's highly likely that they have still failed to break through across the river, considering today's developments, with Putin reportedly agreeing to halt the war. Russian troops will likely hold off on further river crossing attempts in order to stay alive, because realistically, trying to cross the river now would be a one way ticket. Now, moving to the Siversk direction. As before, fighting continues in the areas around Bilohorivka and Verkhnyokaminsk. However, there have been no changes to the front line over the past 24 hours. In the Liman direction, Russian forces continue assaulting Zarichne, Zelena Dolina, Lipove, and Ritkodub, and are pushing toward Karpivka. Attacks on Druzhelyubivka also persist, but the Russians have had no success there, and the front line has remained unchanged over the past 24 hours. In the Borova direction, Russian troops are storming Nova Krugliakivka, Kopanki, and Novoyegorivka. However, the front line here also remains stable for now, as Ukrainian forces successfully repel all attacks. In the Kupiansk direction, things are relatively calm. No new assaults have been recorded, and the number of shelling has decreased. Even geolocated footage of FPV drone activity is minimal and mostly limited to the frontline zone. In the Dvorichna direction, Russian forces continue attacking the village of Stroyevka and carrying out shelling, but there have been no changes over the past 24 hours, and activity in this area remains minimal. In the Kharkiv direction, Russian forces are not launching new attacks around the village of Lyptsi, so the situation there remains stable. However, near Vovchansk, activity continues unabated. There are ongoing attacks in Vovchansk and Vovchansky Hutory. FPV drones are actively operating in the area, but there have been no changes along the front line in the past 24 hours. In the Sumy and Kursk directions, the Russians still cannot push Ukrainian forces out of Russian territory, but they are trying to break into Sumy region. So far, they have had no major successes, though the situation remains tense. According to recent reports, about 65,000 Russian troops have been assembled at the border, preparing for offensive operations into Sumy region to establish a buffer zone. And that's all from me. So please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.